So I just watched Training Day again. Goated movie, by the way. You haven't watched it. This video is about it. Big spoilers ahead, so don't say I didn't warn you. If you haven't watched the movie, I'd recommend going to watch it before you watch this video. And if you don't care about spoilers, well, here we go. Long story short, I'll give a brief summary of what the movie is. It's basically a movie about a rookie cop, and it's his first day. Denzel Washington is in it, so you already know it's gonna be a great movie. But it's a it's a rookie cop. Denzel Washington plays a highly decorated cop. The cop that Denzel Washington plays, his name is Lorenzo, and Ethan Hawke, another goated actor, he plays Jake. It is Jake's first day on the job with Lorenzo, and this is probably one of his craziest days you could possibly ever have on your first day. It's so wild, bro. Like, so wild. Lorenzo, big plot twist at the end, by the way, but he's basically a corrupt cop. Doesn't fly straight, but obviously Jake does. He wants to do what's right. But since Lorenzo is a corrupt cop, obviously his way of doing things are super corrupt, super unethical, and it all ultimately just leads to violence. Throughout the movie, though, Lorenzo does manipulate Jake for his own personal gain, and it kind of just builds up throughout the entire movie. So, scene by scene, throughout this movie, you see where Lorenzo manipulates Jake into, using him as a pawn, using him just because he needs him to be there for a cover up, or just because he needs him. He'll end up using Jake in whatever way that he chooses to. So, keep that in mind because at the end of the day, don't forget, this is Jake's first day, and he's a rookie cop, while Lorenzo is a highly decorated cop, and he's definitely one that's well respected. It is a crazy movie though, because in one of the scenes though, Lorenzo does pull out a gun on Jake, so he ends up lacing him, which is I'm telling you, it's all part of a one big scheme towards the end. But that's what I'm telling you. This movie it's an insane movie, and it's basically like talking about the corruption of cops, like in LA, and how much power they have and what they do, which is, I'm not gonna lie, that it really does happen and it really does go down like that down there. But that's a whole other video. Throughout the movie, he's basically trying to convince and manipulate Jake into telling him that in the field of work that they do, they have to do unethical things to get by, because it's basically dog eat dog world. I think one of their quotes in the movie is, "If you want to take out a wolf, you got to be a wolf," which I do understand, and I do get where he's coming from a logical standpoint. I'm sure that doing that type of work probably eventually does take a toll on you. But at the end of the day, this is basically a yin and yang movie where Lorenzo was once good, was once like Jake, and then he became corrupted over the years just because of the work line he was in, and he understands that in order to take out a wolf, he needs to be a wolf. Where Jake is still a sheep, but Jake is basically, you can be a sheep and also take out a wolf. The movie starts to take a really big plot twist because you guys end up stopping by on one of Lorenzo's informants that he kind of just lets him sell, drugs, and he won't mess with him. And obviously in return, he wants some information said back to him, or he wants to make sure he's getting information on other players so he's able to make busts and whatever. Blah blah. You get the gist. Anyways, and he takes Jake there after he gets Jake slammed off that freaking angel dust after convincing him that that's what he needed to do to be on this job, which obviously was a lie. In this movie, they introduced him kind of as a friendly character to Lorenzo, like obviously someone that Lorenzo might trust, or he hangs out with, or he's close with, or he wouldn't, cross over. That's kind of how they represent this guy. So fast forward down the movie, you go through another scene where this is a very important piece of the movie, but this girl, she's about to get, raped by these two crackheads, and Mr. Jake, being the good guy that he is, and the trying to find justice through his ways, he goes and he stops and he breaks it up, where Lorenzo just sits there and watches him, and kind of just watches him get beat up, trying to save this girl, blah blah blah. Girl gets away. They end up going back to that drug dealer's house, the one that I was talking about earlier, the one that we thought that Lorenzo was friendly with. Well, it turns out he wasn't. So he sets up a drug bust on this guy, as Lorenzo actually ends up shooting this guy in the chest, leaving him unalive, which is pretty crazy. So then they have to make it look realistic. So he ends up shooting one of the guys that he brings, so he can make it seem like he got shot. Obviously, Jake's not down with that, and he's like, "Wait, you guys can't be doing this. This shit is crazy." Lorenzo's like, "You better get down with the dirty dog, or I'm about to put you down like the dog that you are." Obviously, this is not flying by Jake. But Jake has no choice, and he's forced to manipulate it to basically saying that's what happened when he does his little statement report. Obviously, that's not what happens. So fast forward a little bit after that, they end up having a conversation, basically Lorenzo's trying to basically make Jake not feel bad, and that's just the way things are, and that's the way things have to be. And Lorenzo's just basically trying to make his case feel a little bit more believable and a little bit more ethical. But they end up meeting up with these other guys, right? I guess long story short, Lorenzo is stealing this money because he needs it, because I guess he's a hothead type of person, which as you can tell in the movie if you ever watched it, he's a pretty hothead type of person. Not only that, but he ended up beating up some Russian, I think close to death, or he actually ended up beating him up to death, and they basically told them and are holding them for ransom. Basically, you have up to 1 day to come up with like $1 million, or we're gonna kill you. So that's what his whole journey is about, right? But you don't find that out towards the end because Lorenzo brings Jake to these Mexicans, and those Mexicans are supposed to dispose of Mr. Jake, and they literally let him know that when they're about to make his little brain a tiny pack of ramen noodles. So pretty wild stuff, not gonna lie. Crazy scene. But anyways, turns out that that girl that Mr. Jake saved in the alleyway from those two crackheads is actually their little cousins. After they confirm that's her little cousin, they let Mr. Jake go for being the good human being that he is. And then Mr. Jake goes out on the hunt because guess what? To take out a wolf, you gotta be a wolf. So he goes and hunts Mr. Lorenzo, finds Lorenzo in his little hideout neighborhood. Turns out that these people are sick and tired of Mr. Lorenzo after Lorenzo and Mr. Jake Hoyt duke it out. Obviously, Jake getting his butt whooped for a little bit, but then he comes back strong, stands up, doesn't take any L's. Anyways, ends up beating up Lorenzo, leaves Lorenzo out on the street. Lorenzo's people turn on him because they don't like the way Lorenzo's unethical way of doing things are going. After that, Jake walks away. Lorenzo drives away. Oh, I forgot to mention, Jake takes off with the money. So now Lorenzo is shit out of luck with no money, and his deadline is due. So he's ended up driving past the airport. Van pulls up, unalives Lorenzo. Boom. Crazy stuff. R.I.P. Lorenzo, the GOAT. And then the scene changes to Jake arriving at his house late at night, and that's the end of his first day, and that is the end of the movie. So, if you ask me, pretty wild movie. Definitely one of the greatest movies. Pretty gangster movie, I'm not gonna lie. But if you guys watched the movie, let me know what you guys think about the movie. If you guys like it, have you guys watched it? Have you not watched it? And if you haven't watched it, you definitely should watch it. It's a pretty crazy movie. Definitely probably one of the better movies in the early 2000s. But if you guys enjoyed, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.